Hello, this is Alesha from Fort Myers. How are you guys?
Great, Alesha. How you doing?
Good. So I am brand new to this. So this, question is, I guess, probably maybe a little premature, but I'm just trying to prepare myself for, upcoming business. So I need to build my vendor list, the cleaning crews, the general contractors, estate sales and stuff like that. And I guess my question is, as I'm doing that, is it important, should I try to find vendors that will allow invoicing at closing, or, you know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the client asks that, is this all stuff I have to pay up front, then what would my response to that be?
Great question.
So most of the services, including, if you're coming at this from a brokerage standpoint, your commission obviously comes after you do what you promise. Your estate sale company gets paid after they do what they promise. A good contractor won't ask for 50% up front. They'll get to work and they'll get paid when they did what they promised. Some contractors are going to require 50% up front and 50% upon completion. So most of the services that we'll use don't necessarily, they don't incur a cost until there's some value there, right? So in a lot of cases, a lot of folks, the way we present it, this, a lot of times this sounds too good to be true, and people are like, there's no way you can do this without charging, and that's true. But for most of the services we offer, we charge once we've done what we promise, so you don't have to take any real risk. For example, if we help you sell the home, we'll take a commission. If our contractor comes in, he'll do the work and then look for payment. And in certain cases, if you just don't have money for the payment, then we'll actually escrow that invoice with a service charge or an interest charge. You can pay for it out of the closing proceeds. It really, it starts when we have a clear picture of what needs done, then I can answer your question more specifically. Is that fair? And then move.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and typically most estates, even if they have money, they're not going to spend a whole lot. They're not going to use, we encourage you to have as many spokes in the wheel as possible, as many vendor partners as possible, mainly because it makes a more impressive marketing presence. It gives you more hooks and more reasons to get into engaging conversations. It will be rare that you ever use more than 3 vendors on a single transaction. Like a lot of times you'll bring in an estate sale company, or you'll bring in a contractor, or you'll bring in, a social worker to help find somebody suitable living for seniors, or you'll bring in 1 or 2 people on a deal. And a lot of the services we offer, they don't even have to pay for. Like a social worker obviously is being paid by the government, so they can come in, do what they do, bring a ton of value, and they don't have to pay for anything. So just try to present it in such a way that, well, let's decide how we're going to help you first, and then I'll let you know how you're going to pay for it.
Okay. And then, I know you said earlier in the call, too, that typically you will put on your contractor or your vendor to contact the PR directly, so that you're not really in the middle of the cost discussions, right?
Yep. I don't want to be in the... It's not just about cost either. I certainly don't want anyone else's invoices coming through my books if I'm not getting any revenue or any earnings for that. But also, I don't want them coming through my calendar, through my phone. I don't want to be the monkey in the middle.
Okay.
So from a marketing standpoint, I want it to appear as a single vertically integrated company that can do all of this stuff. As soon as I've built rapport and I'm looking this person in the eye, then I'm going to disclose, okay, listen, our contractor is Joe. He's going to call you. He'll have a contract. You guys can agree on the price and terms, take care of that, and pay him directly whenever it's finished. And this person will do this, and this person. And at that point, it becomes apparent to them that, oh, okay, this isn't the Walmart of probate services, but he has vetted these people, and he is doing what he said. So they obviously at some point will realize you don't all work in the same office. But when they get the letter and when they hear you on the phone for the first time, they will think that you're. I've had people ask where one person was like, where the hell is your office? It must be the size of damn Walmart. And they literally, because of the way we market, they thought that there was this massive team of contractors, cleanout crews, financial advisors, CPAs, and we were all in one big office. And that's what we want, because it really differentiates us. So you'll, at some point when they, when you've got a relationship going, they'll start to they'll figure it out, like, oh, okay, so she's just a really good connector and handed me all this on a silver platter. And you don't really lose social points for that. You still get credit for bringing that to the table. So it doesn't hurt you at all to do it that way.
That's perfect. That's the perfect answer. So you guys helped me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Alesha. I was just going to say, in one regard, it's kind of like an REO where you take care of as much as possible, for the seller, for the bank, but it's completely different than an REO. You're not expected to coordinate and pay for everything. So,
Yeah.
Good way to look at it. All right. Well, thank you so much. We actually had one extra person jump in the queue off phone number ending in 7770. You're up last.
Hi, this is Susan from the Bay Area. I'm checking with you because I'm wondering if you have any sort of formal document, back to the reference on Alesha's call, about a formal document that the sellers would sign when you supply the vendor and then you're adding your fees and then all of it to be paid in escrow. Because I got caught in a situation with a seller and they tried to cheat me out of the things that I had paid for. And then I consulted with an attorney and he said, well, you're kind of out of luck because I didn't have anything in writing. And I know, I'm a realtor and I know that our association does not like us to create contracts because we are not attorneys for that situation. Do you have any kind of something already put together that I can kind of follow, sort of?
Well, I would say the first thing is, and I've only done it twice, but I've only gone against the advice I'm going to give you twice. Don't put yourself in a position where you're risking your own capital and you're providing the service. Like, you've done enough. So you don't have to pay for cleanouts. You can find other ways to do it. And that's the first rule, is like, just don't get yourself in the middle of it so you don't have that risk. Now, when I've made exceptions, both times have been with very elderly couples who lost their parents very late in life. Like, the parent died and the PR was a child in their 80s, like mid to late 80s. Their parents they had children really young and like lived into their hundreds, but they were from a generation that they didn't trust what they didn't see. So I'm like, this contractor's this cleanout guy's gonna come and do this, and then the carpet guy's gonna come and do this. And they're like, well, I just don't know. We're really comfortable with you. So I stepped up and took the risk. I paid for the clean out. I paid for the carpet install. And then they literally drove up here and handed me a personal check. So the money was only out for a couple of days. And in that case, they had the money. They just didn't trust writing a check because they were elderly. They didn't trust writing a check to someone they didn't know. So I took the risk. But it's a rare occasion when I'm willing to do that, because we can leverage things like estate advance companies. And I'm working really hard to find the right estate advance company to get on an Ask the Expert series so you guys can learn from that and what they can do to help your clients in these situations. So essentially, you can take a short-term loan, non-secured loan, and that estate advance company will take the risk. Now, they're coming in at the very bottom line of the distribution when they settle probate. So it's not going to be a cheap interest rate. It's going to be more like a credit card interest rate, because they're really sticking their neck out to make an unsecured loan like that. So that's one solution. Carrying an invoice to escrow is the best way you can do it. If you partner with strong vendors, they can typically float invoices for 90 or 120 days. Contractors are the easiest because there are ways to secure them. Like, a contractor can, they can submit an invoice with a 10% premium or 12% premium, whatever they're comfortable with for taking that capital risk, submit it to escrow, and then go straight to the courthouse and record a mechanics lien. So that way, even if something goes wrong, if the sale falls apart and they don't sell, your contractor at least has a mechanics lien on a property that is most likely it has to transfer out of probate. So it might take 6 months in a worst case scenario, but when that property transfers, they've got it for it. In order for it to transfer, they've got to remove that lien. So he's got to be paid. So it's easier to protect contractors because of mechanics liens. If it's, a clean out company and it's $1,000, it's hard to secure that. So you can either leverage a lender to loan the family money and they will have their own contract, or you can leverage your relationship with the vendor and have them carry the risk through the closing table to get a premium on top of it. But
It's
I would
also one of the
say,
questions. Go ahead, Bud. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
yeah, just try at all costs avoid risking your own money, because you're the one providing the service and the expertise. That should be enough.
Okay.
And as you build your team, when you do this, as you build your team, one of the questions that you need to make sure that you ask is exactly what Chad's talking about. As you interview that, ask people, if you're talking to contractors or frankly anybody, even if it is a clean out crew or anybody else, ask them if they ever do work and place mechanics liens and get paid at the closing table, because the stronger ones will do that. Depending on the nature of that relationship, as you build it, you'll find that there are definitely contractors who will work to do that, and as long as they're either pulling that mechanics lien or they get on the HUD, they're good to go, and they're used to doing that. And oftentimes they'll even lay that off on a third party themselves, so they'll have already gotten their money and they're guaranteeing it back to somebody else. So they're just ask if they've had that experience as you build your team.
Yeah, all that is really, really good advice. I was just trying to be very, very kind to these people, and they end up taking advantage of the situation. It was kind of tragic for what I actually did for the whole situation. But back to what you were saying, Chad, about the estate advance company, where would I find one of those for people if I needed to?
So, like I said, I've been trying to vet them, and I'm trying to speak to as many owners. If anyone on this call knows a reputable estate advance company, please have them email Chad at all the leads and ask if they're willing to come here and talk to us on this call or do a video. If you Google estate advance company, there's 3 or 4 that are working on a national level. Did you say you're in California?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and there are, one of the gentlemen I spoke to last week, he's an attorney in North LA, like North LA County, and he is a probate attorney. But the families were oftentimes coming up against the wall of, well, we know we could sell this house for $500,000 if we just had another $30,000 to do the kitchen. So he started an estate advance company, but the reason I haven't had him on, as our national spokesperson is he only is interested in doing the loans in California. So I'm still trying to find the right person, but right now all you can do is what I'm doing, just Google estate advance lender or estate advance company and see who you can find, and talk to them, talk to 2 or 3, compare their rates, compare their terms, their track records, what loan sizes they make, and maybe having all 3 of the arrows in your quiver is the right answer. You can
okay,
have
that sounds great.
One may be more suitable for for a certain type of like personal property or getting homes cleaned out, where the other might be willing to loan upwards of $200,000. Some of these guys will only do 10 or 15 grand. Regardless of the estate amount, that's all the risk they're comfortable with. So ask them about how big of a loan they're willing to make. Is it based on a percentage of gross value or just a set dollar amount? And then you'll kind of see which ones you can use where.
Perfect. I love it.
Thank you, Susan. And Tim, before I wrap up, you had something you wanted to share.
Yeah, this just came in as a question that we got during the call from somebody who heard your earlier comment, Chad, about mastery and the fact that they can take it again. And the question was, do they have to pay for it a second time? And the reality of your answer, I think you said it, but they may not have heard it, was that we don't charge you to basically audit the course again. You can certainly participate over and over and be part of it. We don't charge you but once for it. So that was the only thing I wanted to make a point out of. If you've already signed up and you've been once before, you can come back again. And as Chad said, I think Joy's been 13 times now. Get something new every time. So we welcome you to those calls. And I'm done.
Just to be clear, like if you do want to pay a second, third, or 13th time, I'm 100% open to that. I do need motorcycle tires.
Actually, we split that, I believe, Chad, is what we said. But all right, moving on.
All right, guys. Great call, guys. I sort of get the feeling that the 4th of July is behind us, the summer's half over, and it seems like people are getting back to work. We're certainly noticing it this week in our business, so hopefully you guys are too. I want to end this call the way I always do. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to particularly thank those who actively participated. I think I know who our winner of the week is, but that announcement will be coming soon. The 2 people who ask us to call them, our salespeople will be reaching out to you. And I want to challenge each of you, take one idea, one thought, one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we will talk to you same time next Thursday.